People in society. People seeking company and a place in the world long to be members of social groups and feel accepted. Society is a structured system of people who share a defined territory and culture. Shared values, rules, and virtues are typical for communities, and due to these characteristics, the most violent element in society is ignorance. Dear listeners, welcome to the new episode of our podcast, and enjoy listening.
Sloboda je kľúčom k nezávislosti. No čo sloboda znamená pre teba? Štvorka ťa nebude obmedzovať. Sloboda pre mladých nie je len paušál. Sú to otvorené dvere do nového slobodného života. Tak daj záväzky bokom a prejdi do štvorky. Voľné minúty, SMS-ky a mobilné dáta dostaneš už za 4 eurá mesačne, a to bez viazanosti. Všetko vyriešiš pohodlne na webe slobodapremladých.sk alebo v mobilnej appke Moja štvorka. Stačí, aby si mal potvrdenie o štúdiu. Tak na čo ešte čakáš?
The meaning of society is clear since our birth when we become part of a family and automatically become part of this social group. Every country and culture creates different rules and norms developed according to the history and mentality of its citizens. The development of society dates back to ancient times, and it has never stopped. The norms are still changing according to new trends and generations. Extremes, which are considered impolite, are unexpected and often judged or punished. New generations try to be more open-minded and broaden their opinions to avoid conservative and aggressive judgments. Every person has a different role in the family, school, work, group of friends, and chooses various patterns of behavior. However, basic behavior is sealed by our family that fixes our manners and traditions and determines our fundamental position. A family is a unit providing information on what rules are important to function in society, and others are given by institutions and media. Young generations are becoming assertive and bold, which might seem rude and disrespectful to the elderly. This is also the reason why adapting to life should be a long-term process of adjusting to new conditions and lifestyles. Formal behavior includes formal greetings and polite expressions used in institutions and offices, and it requires a certain distance. Constant thank yous and pleases shouldn't be used only in a formal context, but also in informal situations with friends and family, where behavior is comfortable and relaxed. It's necessary to determine specific situations and decide what behavior is suitable for each one. Let's give the example of a dinner with your boss. This formal occasion will probably require formal clothes, like a cocktail dress or a suit, and proper etiquette that should be followed to avoid awkward situations. On the other hand, a night out with friends or team building with colleagues are informal occasions that require a relaxed atmosphere, fun, and comfortable clothes to make jokes at ease. In the past, manners and society were more strict and surely more conservative than now. The reason for this was the strong influence of religion that expected virtuous behavior from everyone. Topics like homosexuality or emancipation were taboos, and people were supposed to live according to the rules of the church and state. The punishment for social sins was very tough, and people had to resist temptation or conceal it. The consequences of immoral and rebellious behavior were really harsh, and people had to put aside all their desires to fight for a better future. The uncovering of taboo themes has been a slow process which still goes on today. What were the conditions like in the past for different classes? The circumstances of the lower and upper classes varied, but some of them still exist in today's world. The upper classes consisted of noblemen and the monarchy, who were supposed to be strongly religious and a moral example for the country's subjects. Women had to keep their virtue until marriage because the opposite was considered shamelessness. This rule and social stereotypes were also important in the lower classes, where huge expectations were placed on women for whom their fathers paid a dowry. Marriage was an important event in women's lives, and if they didn't get married, the gentler gender was judged unworthy and useless. Men were supposed to be the breadwinners of the family, providing financial support, and this same expectation does still exist. Patterns of behavior from both sides of the lower and upper classes were similar. However, the privileges and human rights differed, and the lower classes were supposed to do the work and obey silently. Any rebellious protests were punished, and without money they couldn't escape their sentence. These were times when corruption was widespread, and the concept has been preserved till now. The lower classes had to pay high taxes, work tremendously hard, and keep their mouths shut. The orders given had to be fulfilled with the least resentment. The upper classes could use their privilege and adjust situations according to their needs and desire to maintain an immaculate reputation. The major change started during the First and Second World Wars, when people started to fight for themselves more, and rebellious behavior became more visible, even though the punishments were as hard as before. The situation after the wars improved. Even the lower classes had opportunities to be educated once the Education Act allowed ordinary people to study at universities. The upper classes didn't agree and wanted to be segregated from the uneducated students. Changes were also significant regarding the status of women, with emancipation gaining in strength. Women fought for their voting rights and opportunities to work not only in factories, but also in white-collar jobs. These factors are very important for society, and even now, protests in the street indicate dissatisfaction with an individual phenomenon, taboos, and the inequality of minorities and social groups. Wars, events, protests, pandemics, and revolutions make lasting change to the running of society in each state. Politicians, media, and the general public solve issues regarding morals on a daily basis. Every event offers a different perspective, and what was taboo before becomes the norm, and vice versa. Nowadays, society tries more and more for divisions between classes to be smoothed out, but some slight differences still remain. Are ethics and etiquette the same thing? I'm sure you answered no. Ethics is defined as the study of morals from the philosophical point of view, where philosophers provide their opinions and theories about cultures and humanity. They try to clarify human behavior towards nature, the environment, work, others, and importantly towards oneself as well. Ethics analyzes communication, making compromises, and adjusting to society, whereas etiquette deals with the rules of the certain community or professions to avoid rude and awkward situations. When meeting the Queen, state representatives, or clients at work, as well as dining at a luxurious restaurant, it is necessary to behave according to the etiquette, which defines moral norms and principles that are above the law. It describes specific features of individual societies. What's the goal of rules? Why do we need principles to maintain society and culture? These questions are asked all the time by many people, even those who are not inclined to live by the rules. Written or unwritten laws are meant for a normal, functioning society where everyone feels confident, safe, and comfortable. It's the place where every race, every human, may be accepted, respected, with the options of pursuing different goals. Those who don't honor the order, rules, and cause chaos should be treated differently to make them understand how important it is to behave according to our individuality and adjust to society at the same time. Family, friends, and teachers at school impart this wisdom and teach us about the system of society. Dear listeners, take notice of the system everywhere you go. Respect the cultures and principles, and remember that every rule has its reason and history. Society is made to form an inclusive humankind with a utopian idea of equality and kindness. If you want to know more about society, just stay with us and listen. Even when the rules and principles are not written and stuck on the door everywhere we go, our inner voice, or so-called conscience, helps us to differentiate what things and situations are moral and which are immoral. Patterns given by the environment might help us decide what we should do, but it also depends on our personality and our way of thinking. The generation gap doesn't include only various opinions, but also various values. Perspectives on homosexuality or divorce used to be conservative, and people in the past supported the traditional family in all circumstances. No matter how bad the situation was, the image and appearance of the family were the most important elements. This has become different after the revolution, and the world is still in the process of transformation and liberalization. The modern world accepts homosexual couples, the adoption of kids, as well as relationships without marriages. Society is assertive and not afraid to show if something's not the way it's supposed to be. However, there are always some expectations from the members of our society, and behavior showing disrespect or non-adherence might lead to people avoiding you. Such patterns of behavior in certain cultures are considered a crime or a sin. Dear listeners, we have found out that being part of society is a necessity since our birth, and we know that we are committed to rules which determine what is and what isn't a norm. Society is becoming liberal. However, some concepts like homosexuality or infidelity are considered crimes in some countries, requiring a harsh punishment. Let's try to live as part of society without harming anyone, with the full acceptance and feeling of safety, where everyone is allowed to express their opinion without being judged. Thank you very much for listening. We would be delighted if you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or write a comment on YouTube. We hope you listen to us again soon.